It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One Bank Studios here in New York on the rapidly developing, previously dead, ultra Midtown West location. It's getting better, Mark. It is definitely getting better around here. Or worse. I mean, depending on your viewpoint. But more building, more people, a couple more places to go to lunch. We at CBS are now relieved that we have more than two choices. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And it's the first weekend in November. It also means that it is the weekend before the midterm elections. And, you know, I know everyone's up in arms about all this. And you should be. And you should vote. Darn it. No complaining if you don't vote. I mean, you can complain about a lot of other things. Just can't complain about the state of the system. So please, please go vote. Vote, vote, vote. Also, we're now in this very strange period of time that I would call the sweet spot. It's sort of this 3-week period, 3.5 week maybe, before the holidays. And when I say there are 4 weeks, I guess, about three or 4 weeks. The holiday season often will suck you in to its vortex, and it will distract you from doing the things you need to do. And that is why we are going to really work hard to make sure that you are paying attention to what you need to be doing before the end of the year. And we're going to do this in November. We're going to talk about your year-end planning. We're going to talk about your charitable giving. We're going to be talking about all the things you need to know heading into this season. And when I say this season, I don't mean the holiday season. What I mean is this season of getting stuff done. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to pinky swear together. We are going to get some stuff done in the next few weeks, and we're going to kick it into gear because we'll have some fun guests in December. I think Mark's booking Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus. I think he's got Rudolph booked, as well as some of the reindeer are coming, like the reindeer entourage is coming. Anyone else? The Heat Miser? Frosty? We got them all. I love holiday music, so please email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com for your favorite holiday music. And let me just start by saying that Trans-Siberian thing, never going to air. So if you like that, can't listen to it here. But tell us your favorite Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa music. We'll take it. Okay, so that's our November announcement. We're getting ready. Let's go take a call. If you'd like to get on the air with us, please just send us an email. Ask Jill@jillonmoney.com. You can just go to jillonmoney.com, our website, click on the Contact Us button, and poof, you can contact us. Annamarie from Pennsylvania did just that. So, welcome to the program, Annamarie. How may I help you out today?
Good morning, Jill.
Good morning.
So, I am 63 years old, and I'm planning on retiring at my full retirement age of 66. And right now, my financial advisor is advising me to put my 401k into an annuity.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a pension and, Social Security, my husband's Social Security, and his money is also in an annuity.
Mm-hmm.
So I had wanted to hold on to my 401k for a couple of different reasons, but mainly, like as we get older, maybe in our 80s, so we could sell our current home and use what money we have to get into like a perpetual care type.
Right. I got it. When you said you're going to have a pension when you retire. Let's do me a favor. Let's flash forward for your retirement. tell me what the sources of your income will be when you are retired at your full retirement age, 66 and change. What will you be receiving from Social Security?
I will be receiving around $2,000 a month, probably about the same in a pension payment.
And hubby, does he get anything besides Social Security? Does he also have a pension?
He does not. He has an annuity that he's going to start collecting on when he's age 72.
Okay. So, and what's his Social Security amount?
His is just a little over $2,000 right now as well.
Okay. So you got, what we know now is you'll have $6,000 coming in, not including the annuity. What do you have an estimate on the annuity when he annuitizes? Do you have an estimate on what that will be?
On a monthly basis, at a little over $1,000 a year, I guess.
$1,000 a month. A year. Good luck. Have a nice lunch. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So you'll have $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. How's that going to be for your cash flow? I mean, some of it will be taxed. So is that enough money to support you guys?
I think so. Like, we're planning on having any debt. We've been paying off all of our debts. We do have a mortgage. You know, we just had to put a roof on the house. So we're paying for that now.
Okay. And when you say the house is worth about how much?
The house is worth about maybe $235,000.
And the outstanding mortgage amount?
Is about $179.
Okay.
Because we just bought it.
Okay. Oh, great. That's good. So you've got so what other assets do you have?
That's basically it.
You have your old 401k, meaning like how much is in there?
Oh, okay.
Or you will. I mean, it's your current 401k, which will be old in 2 years or 3 years.
Okay. So I have $100,000 in there.
Yep.
And my husband also has $60,000 in an IRA.
Okay, great. Okay, so the advisor says you got to put your money that 401k into an annuity, right?
Well, that's what he's telling us.
Okay, and you ready for the answer? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way. Let me be clear about this. Absolutely not. Just kidding. But I mean, the reality is you've got plenty of income. What you really should be doing is maintaining the liquidity you have, meaning that when that 401k, you want to move it into an IRA rollover or even just keep it as a 401k, you want that $100,000, just like your husband has that $60,000. That is the pot that you have for anything extra that you would incur as you get older. I mean, the idea here is that you already have income. And we don't want you to squander the liquidity you have by locking it into another annuity. Now, he's already got the annuity that he already bought. That's fine. But the reality is you stay the course. Don't worry about getting another product. And you want to invest the IRA assets, when they become IRA assets, conservatively. That's your emergency fund. Thank you so much for calling, Annamarie. Hope that helps. You're listening to Jill on Money, and guess what? You can go to our beautiful website, jillonmoney.com, and you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And while you're there, why don't you pre-order my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back with Jill on Money, live from the Capital One Bank Studios in New York. Hope you're doing well. Enjoying your fall? Got that sugar high kind of coming down off that Halloween sugar high? Throw out those candy corns right now, I'm telling you. Just save yourself from yourself, please. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And, so many times we have commented on how life events will often really drive many of your investment decisions as well as some of your big planning decisions. We encourage you to give us a holler when one of those events occurs. The way to do that is to just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That is what Susan did. And Susan, welcome to the program. I understand you're going through a rough time, so tell us a little bit about what's up.
Yeah, well, we were in the middle of relocating from New Orleans to Nashville, and about 2 months ago, my younger sister got sick. We thought it was a respiratory illness, but by the end of the weekend, she was admitted to the hospital. By the end of the weekend, they were saying they thought it was cancer.
Oh.
She had a hysterectomy in the middle of September, and they did confirm at that time that it was cancer. And, we thought we were going to do chemo and that, we were going to fight it. Unfortunately, she got admitted to the hospital again on October 2nd. I flew home, I think, the 7th or 8th of October, and by the 12th, she had passed away. So,
what a tragedy. I am so sorry. I mean, I know loss is loss, but I have a sister. I am so close with her. I cannot even imagine what you're going through.
Yeah. She really was my best friend, too. So it's a rough time.
Brother, I'm so sorry. So how can I help you?
Well, I'm faced with a lot of decisions. She named me as the executor for her will. We had to do it while she was in the hospital because she didn't have one. Certainly wasn't expecting this to happen. So we had the will done. She left everything to my mom, named me as the executor. So I'm in the process of trying to figure out her assets and liabilities. I do have access to a probate attorney through my employer, which
that's good.
is helpful.
Yeah.
But he wanted to get a list of all her assets and liabilities. I think I pretty much figured out all of her debts and all of her assets, but I just didn't know if there's any other, I've looked through her bank accounts. I have all of her credit cards. Fortunately, she did have a document that listed all of her usernames and passwords for all of her online accounts. So I think I've gotten to everything, and I also have her phone, which has been helpful to be able to, get notifications and things. But just if there's anything else, I should be thinking about other places to look. She did. Go ahead.
So you said she had very few assets, right? And so it was really the you wanted to get the debt nailed down. And I'm just so on the asset side, what do you think she had?
She has about $15,000 in a couple of different bank accounts.
And you're sure that there's no other assets, for example, like a retirement account, an IRA account somewhere, anything like that, you think?
The only thing that and I haven't been able to get the details on it yet, is she was an employee of of Arizona State. And so she does have a defined benefit plan through them. It's the Arizona State retirement system is what she was participating in. I'm assuming she was contributing to it.
Right. And usually they will compel employees to contribute to it. Something that probably you should wait for is, before you have everything, is that maybe you could find out that in the next month or so, or at least when most of these companies send monthly statements, you might find that there's something sent to her, either electronically sent to her or in the mail, that may uncover some other assets. But that's about all you can do. Sometimes I think, going back and looking at bank accounts, or you have access to her email. Maybe going back and just looking through the email and seeing if there are any other statements that are being sent electronically, that might give you a clue as well.
Okay.
So now, once you do that, tell me, so she made you the executor. And so what are there other assets? Is there any life insurance? Is there a house? What else is going on?
She had sold her house earlier this year. Unfortunately, didn't make any money on it. And she was living. My mom had renovated her house, so the two of them kind of shared a home. And So there's no real estate. She did have a truck, but it's, probably worth $2,500 or $3,000. It wasn't a very expensive truck.
Mm-hmm.
She did leave all of her life insurance to me. And there's $65,000 in one policy and about $170,000. It was 3 times her salary in the other policy.
Wow. So presumably when you deal with the probate attorney, that attorney will have the ability to, look at those proceeds and settle any debts that are outstanding. Do you know how much total debt she had?
Yeah, she had about $240,000 between her student loans and her credit cards. So she has quite a bit of debt.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm just wondering. You'll have to talk to the attorney about this because there is the student loans and the credit cards. Some of those, it depends on the state of residence, and I'm not a lawyer. The question really is like, what needs to get paid? Absolutely, right? Like because some of this debt is often released after somebody passes away, and she doesn't really have assets to speak of, right? I mean, and so I guess I would rely on the attorney to tell you, okay, what do we really have to pay off, or should we try to settle? And I think, is it a he or a she, the attorney?
A he.
Okay, so you take his advice around that. I mean, I'm adding it up and saying 2 insurance policies, $15,000 in a bank account. There's $250,000, which would completely pay off the debt. But he may say, no, don't do that because you don't need to do that. And I don't know the answer to that question. I know that often, debt is released in, after death. But that is a legal question, and I wouldn't weigh in on that. If it was advisable not to pay that debt off or maybe make a settlement to pay some of it off, then you will have this chunk of money. Who else? You said your mom's alive, and you also have siblings. How many siblings?
I have 2, one older sister who is in the UK and then a younger brother.
Okay. And how are they doing financially?
My older sister's managing okay, I think. She's a teaching assistant, so not a lot of salary, but she has a home that will become hers. Her partner passed away, and she inherited half of a home, and then the person she shares a home with, when he passes away, she'll own the house outright. So she's doing okay financially, and my brother is doing all right as well.
And you guys, you are doing okay. You and also your mom is doing okay.
Yeah, my dad was really good at investing, and he took really good care of my mother, so she's in fine shape. And then, I think my husband and I are in good shape too. We had sold our house in New Orleans just in the beginning of October, and so we have about $240,000 in capital gains that we're facing this year as well from the sale of that house. So
I think that you talk to the attorney, find out what really needs to get paid off, what doesn't need to get paid off, and then I don't know what the will says. It may be something about how it's split up. If there's no explicit split in terms of, where the money should go and it just says spread it out, then go ahead and spread it out. But the lawyer's going to be your number one guide in this. If there are financial questions after you hear from the lawyer, please do let us know. We'd love to talk to you again. And again, just so sorry for your loss. And feel free to use us as a resource however we can help. Oh, boy. Life is so complicated. It is Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle at Jill on Money. Now, back to the show.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. You know what you can do? Go straight to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and you'll be able to do a few different things here. You'll be able to click on the contact button, send us an email right from there. Just all you need to remember, JillOnMoney.com. moneywatch.com. You can also pre-order the book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money. You know you've done a few of them. I have. God knows. Mark, what's the dumbest thing you've done with your money? Oh, yeah, he bought Bitcoin. What's your average price right now? You're down? But didn't you buy some more at 6? Oh, you didn't? You didn't average down like I told you to? Interesting. Okay. I told you. Well, you know, you wanted to be on the ride. You are on the ride, that's for sure. Yeah, he says it'll come up again. We'll see. Anyway, maybe next you'd like to invest in a cannabis company. That's the next hot bubble that's forming. Okay. So anyway, go to the website, JillOnMoney.com. Contact us, pre-order the book, sign up for our newsletter. It's free, the newsletter. The book, it costs money. And let's do it that way, okay? All right. Here is an email from Claudia, who is asking about creating a will online. We don't want to leave our son with a burden. We want to plan a will to leave our house and whatever belongings we have to him. Lots of different stuff out there. Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think an estate lawyer is necessary? So look, I like using an estate attorney, a qualified estate attorney, in your own state. But I get it. I get that it seems like a lot of money if you don't really know what it is that you're looking for, if you really need it. So, what else do you need to know? You know, is it okay to, I guess a do-it-yourself will is fine. LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, Will Maker, all of them, they're kind of the same. Not the same, but you know what I mean, that, you know, they're similar. So you can play around with them. I just think that if possible, I do certainly like the idea of a person. But, all right, maybe you're just going to do it. If this is the only way you're going to do a will, then I would, you know, Rocket Lawyer, LegalZoom, Nolo.com, Will Maker, they're all kind of similar. The prices, I don't know, very meager compared to what it would. I mean, I don't know. That's the other thing. Maybe if you give $150 to do this, get what you pay for, Mark says. But if you want to go look for a lawyer, you know what I would do is I would look up not elder care, but estate attorney. That's how I would do it. Find out from your friends, from your circle of friends, from professionals, who's had a good experience. That's what I would do. All right. Oliver writes that his son is retiring at age 55 because of a medical illness. He's going to receive a lump sum of $400,000. He's got $65,000 in a 401k. He's got a lump sum pension, rather. And he's got a mortgage. He's got a mortgage of about $100,000, 3.5%, and no other debts. He does intend to work after retirement, but doesn't have a job yet. Should he pay off his mortgage? I don't think he should pay off his mortgage. I would wait. Let's see. If all of a sudden he's got a decent job, I mean, he's retiring from a physical job. I don't want to out him because the company may not like that, but whatever. So I think that you should wait and see what his cash flow is like. I think that when someone has a medical issue, you don't want to necessarily take a ton of your money and burn it up on the mortgage pay down. So what I think I would do is I would work hard enough in his semi-retirement to pay his bills and hopefully not have to, doesn't have to worry about saving more money, but just keeping his head above water. But no, I don't think I would pay off that mortgage just yet. I really don't. Okay. Here is a note from Fred, who's 66. He's single. He retired 7 years ago and wants to know, can he move money into a Roth IRA? His pension totals $37,000 a year. When he takes Social Security at age 70, that will be another $29,000 a year. His IRAs are at Fidelity, and one has $250,000, and the other is inherited. It's now worth $325,000. This year, I have to take a required minimum distribution of $13,300 from the inherited IRA. Between the pension, Social Security, and required minimum distribution on both accounts, my income at 70 is going to be above $85,000. Wow, that's funny though. Like to think about all of a sudden your total taxable income has started to rise. He says, I believe this will put me in a higher tax bracket, and I'll have to pay more than the $134 a month I pay for Medicare. So, can I transfer money from one of my IRAs into a Roth, even though I've not had any income for more than 7 years? And if I can, any idea the maximum I can take? I have about $35,000 to $40,000 to pay for the tax on the transfer. Thank you for your answer. You can first of all, you're right. Your tax bracket, it goes from 12 to 22%, above your above $82,500. So you are already in the 22% tax bracket. Your tax bracket will only go up by 2% on the amount of money above $82,501. That said, it would be great if you could start to take the money from that $250,000 and slowly convert it. But remember, whatever you convert, you got to pay tax on. And that's going to be also a problem for you when it comes to tax time and popping you into a new bracket. So, yes, I wouldn't deplete all of your money. You still have to have an emergency reserve fund. But if you could take, I don't know what your actual expenses are, but if you took like $10,000 of the money that's in the bank to actually pay the tax due on some of that $250, sure, I would do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't care too much because I don't want you to deplete that whole account. So that's what we don't want you to do. The word of this segment, liquidity, gang. Don't burn up the money you have because you might need it. You are listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. Yeah, we're hanging out. We're talking money. We're talking about your financial questions. Just trying to figure out how we can help you get where you want to go in an efficient way. It's not always the cheapest way. Cheapest is not always the best. Sometimes, here's what I do. I weigh what you are telling me. And when you're on the air with me directly, I can ask some questions. But I also understand that human nature is such that sometimes we've got to do the second or third best thing. Because the absolute best thing financially sometimes is something you're just not going to do. So what's the next best thing that we can do? That's what I think is really important. So if you've got a financial question and you want to know your first, second, third best things to do, give us a holler. Go to JillOnMoney.com and you can click on the Contact Us button. And you can also, while you're there, go peruse the book. It's not available yet, but if you click on the tab of book, you will see we've got a cover, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. There's sort of like a fun Mad Men-esque figure of a dude with a briefcase hanging onto a wire with money falling out of his and papers falling out of his briefcase. Briefcase might be a slightly dated accessory, but I like it. Anyway, check it out. You can pre-order it. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BAM, iBooks, IndieBound, anywhere you want. But just do it because Mark and I have got to show the publishing company that we are going to outsell them. That's it. You know? Anyway, so if you like the show, it's really like the show in written form. It's using stories to tell you how you can basically try to avoid some of the common financial pitfalls that we've all encountered in our lives. That's it. And we're not going to judge you. We're just going to say, hey, check it out. See what you can do. All right? Now, let us get back to our matter at hand, your email questions, because we like to clean out that inbox. Chris has been a fan of the show for a long time. Great guests, lots of different perspectives. My wife and I are fortunate enough to be doing pretty well financially. We're in our mid-30s. We pull in six-figure incomes, approximately $220,000 total pre-tax. We own a two-family home that provides us with rental income in addition to a place to live. We each have 401k accounts with about $100,000 balance each. We're planning to max those out as long as we can until we retire. We're on a good path for retirement, financially stable. It took a few years, but we will be out of credit card and student loan debt by the end of this year. That's amazing. Amazing to make over $200,000 a year and just being out of that hole, right? Okay, here's the point. We both happen to be the oldest siblings of our respective families. Children's not something we are planning on, so we would like to take advantage of our financial position and start establishing investments for our niece and nephew and future nieces and nephews to come. They're both under 2, so we've got a good time horizon. So this is the interesting question. I'm familiar with 529 plans and the advantages they provide, because remember, everybody, that when you put money in a 529, it grows without taxation during the years that you're investing. And when you take it out for qualified education expenses, that now includes high school as well. Actually, all school. I shouldn't say just high school. It's for any private school and college. When that money comes out, it comes out without any taxation at that time. So all that accumulation, you don't pay tax on it. That's why everyone loves a 529 plan. But here's the thing. Chris says, I am not 100% certain that they will all go to college. Is there a vehicle that offers the same benefits as a 529 plan, but does not have to be tied to paying for education? If our niece or nephew wants to go into a trade or pursue something before going to college or not go to college at all, can we gift him the money that we have saved with him or her being able to use it for whatever they want, which may not be education right away? Okay, so here's the thing. The education benefit is all around the tax savings. If it's not tied to education, you're not going to get tax savings. But the thing that's kind of interesting is that a 529 plan, you can move it between siblings. And so what you may want to consider is putting some money in a 529 plan, maybe a small amount for each kid. Don't overfund it, but, put a few $1,000 in and get it started. And, we want that kid to go to school. We really do. So if that's the case, I think that, putting some money in to start, see how the kids develop. And then you could also just simply create a separate account that's in your name. You don't have to put their name on it because that might hurt them for some of the education grants or something or scholarship or aid that they might receive in the future. You don't have to have a custodial account. They'll get that money too fast. Just have a separate account. And you can gift out of that account if you want. It just has no tax savings. So you could have a custodial account. I'm not a huge fan of a custodial account, got to tell you. But I do think that starting a small 529 could be really helpful. And see how it goes. And we can talk more about specifics, but I think that's generally a good idea. And then you got a long time to see whether or not, or which one of them is more academically oriented. All right. Thanks for writing, Chris. You are listening to Jill on Money. By the way, best 529 plans that not your state's plan. I love the Nevada, Utah, Alaska, Maryland. All right. Jill on Money. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. As we sit here live from the Capital One Bank studios, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That is what Katie did. She writes, I'm an avid listener. I've heard you say many times how target date funds can generally have higher fees associated with them. I've been looking at my options. I have $120,000 in my 401k and in a Fidelity 401k. She's in the 2055 target date fund. She's 27 years out, long way from retirement. The expense ratio is 56 basis points, about a little more than 0.5%. She says, look, there's one index fund with a much lower gross expense ratio, 3 basis points, the S&P 500 index. But if I look at diversifying across a couple different funds, it looks like I don't have that much to gain. Thanks for hosting the podcast. I've learned so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so she also kindly sent me her choices. So the first thing I realized was that in your plan, it may be offered through Fidelity, but in this plan, your target date fund is a State Street fund. And inside that State Street fund, because I go the long distance for you guys, I looked up, and basically it's 39% in the S&P 500 index, 34% in an international index, 18% in a mid-cap index, and then 10% in a long-term treasury. Why is this also important? Because what I think you might want to consider is that you could actually replicate this yourself. You can put 40% in the S&P 500. You can put 30% in the international index, which admittedly is a little bit higher cost than you have right now. You could put 20% in a mid-cap index, which is cheaper than what you have now. And then we just got to find you a conservative, some sort of conservative fund. Maybe it's the conservative income fund, which is 0.229%. So basically, I can lower your costs just by replicating what you have in that target date fund. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 20 basis points, 0.2% savings on your $120,000 falls to your bottom line. If you got more questions, please give me a call back. Thank you so much for writing, or give me a shout back, I should say. You can get in touch with us by sending us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Stay tuned. We got a great interview coming right up. We'll be back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. We are coming to you live from the Capital One Bank studios, as we did in the previous hour. But let's just say it anyway, as much as possible. You guys ask a ton of questions about Medicare, Social Security, all those related topics. It's very confusing. That is why I decided I am going to bring a guest on the program who could just blow through a lot of these questions. And hopefully we'll get back to you. But, listen, if you send us an email, they back up. And so we need a little bit of time. How are we doing, Mark? Where are we in the universe of our emails in catching up? Oh, that's pretty good. So we're just a month behind right now. We've been worse. If you have a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. I am delighted to bring back on the program my pal, Steve Vernon. He is the author of Retirement Game Changers. You can check out his blog at cbsmoneywatch.com. By the way, he's also a super smart academic dude because he's a research scholar, a consulting research scholar at Stanford Center on Longevity, because you're an actuary, right, Steve?
That's right, Jill.
We wanted to have you on the show because you are an expert in retirement. And I want to chat a little bit about the fact that we are in the Medicare open enrollment period. I'm wondering what people really need to know about this. This is the period is open until December 7th. And I think that most people just sort of be like, I'll just do what I did last year. What should they be looking for when they're considering their Medicare plans right now?
Well, Jill, let me talk about the first big mistake that I see people make is that they hear that Medicare is called medical insurance. So they assume it's the same as what they had while they were working, and they don't get any kind of a plan to supplement Medicare. And that's a bad mistake because Medicare has significant holes and gaps. It doesn't cover dental or vision or hearing aids that are often covered by your employer-based plan. So the biggest mistake I see people make is they just think, oh, I've got Medicare, that's enough. And that's a bad mistake.
You got to pay up for that extra coverage, right?
Right, and there are two ways to do that. One is to get what's called a Medicare supplement plan, which pays for the deductibles and co-payments of Medicare and gives you almost complete freedom in selecting medical providers. And the other is a Medicare Advantage plan, where you have comprehensive coverage that wraps around Medicare, but you're usually restricted to the healthcare providers in the network. There are two different ways to take the supplemental coverage, and, there's not one right way. It's up to you to check out what works best for you.
And if you're going to do a Medicare supplemental plan, there are different plans, right? They're offered through different providers. I mean, like my mother and my mother-in-law, they have supplemental plans. My mother, of course, has to pay for like the Rolls Royce of plans because she's fearful that she has to have every single possible doctor included. My mother-in-law, she's turning 95. She's never really been sick. She just buys whatever they give her through AARP.
Well, right, and those are okay choices. For people who value flexibility, then you want to take a Medicare supplement plan. And then even within there are over a dozen different types of plans covering different benefits. For example, are you covered overseas? Some plans cover it, some plans don't. And so you really need to customize the plan to your own circumstances.
And of course, that requires you doing this dreaded activity, which is go back and look at how you spent your Medicare dollars and healthcare dollars in the previous year. And I think that people just hate that idea, but it's sort of, dare I say, an audit of your medical spending. Is that fair enough to say? I mean, without doing that, how do you know what you're spending on, right?
Well, and yes, Jill, and I like to say that in retirement, you have a job, and your job is to pay attention to your finances. And the money you can save by doing that, you're paying yourself, maybe even hundreds of dollars per hour by taking the time to complete your new retirement job. One of the jobs is paying attention to Medicare, but there are other parts of your job as well in finances. So think of it that way. You're paying yourself maybe dozens or hundreds of dollars an hour by paying attention to these issues.
That makes sense. I like that because then I feel like I'm getting paid for my time.
Exactly.
Right? That's a good way. That's a good mind shift there. I like it. Tell me a little bit about what Part D medication is all about, because that is a big question. We hear a lot from our listeners that they are spending more money on medication than they had budgeted for. Why is that?
Okay, so Part D is Medicare's part for prescription drugs, and this is one feature that illustrates what I'm talking about. When you're on your employer's plan while you're working, you just had one medical plan that covered drugs and doctors and hospitals, whereas with Medicare, you've got different parts for hospitals and different parts for physicians and different parts for drugs. So Part D is for drugs. If you don't buy a Part D plan, your prescription drugs aren't covered. Some Medicare Advantage plans, actually many of them, will roll in prescription drugs. So again, if you go Medicare Advantage, they wrap everything up into one package. But if you go the Medicare supplement route, then you've got to buy a separate policy for prescription drugs, and that has its own deductibles and co-payments. And for most people, if you have many prescription drugs you're taking, you need a policy, particularly if you're taking brand name drugs. You could be spending hundreds of dollars a month if you don't have a prescription drug policy. So shop for a policy.
And if you don't request a change, the coverage is automatically renewed with what you had last year, right?
That's exactly right. And so particularly with prescription drugs, you really should be shopping that plan every year. Let me just explain something called the prescription drug formulary. Every prescription drug plan categorizes drugs in a few different tiers, and their co-payments and deductibles are different per tier. Each year, they might shift around the tiers for your specific drugs, or they might actually remove a drug from the formulary altogether. So I think there are a number of warning signs here for people. If you haven't shopped your prescription drug plan in 2 or 3 years, shop it.
Yeah. Are there any services or advisors who specialize in this that you think are worth it for people to spend money on?
Yes, there are advisors who do this. One advisor I like is called 65 Incorporated. In fact, I use them to shop my coverage. I turned 65 earlier this year. I had them shop my coverage. You want to find someone who is independent of insurance companies, because you can find brokers who will shop your coverage for you, but they're working for insurance companies often.
Right.
So if this is intimidating, which is easily to be intimidating, find someone to help you. But I do want to mention also Medicare has a rating system on Medicare Advantage plans. So if you're going that route, they will rate plans in your area based on criteria like customer service and other quality of care. So at least that's another way to shop your coverage.
We'll get back to more of your Medicare, Social Security questions when we return. In the meantime, go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. While you're there, sign up for our free weekly newsletter, and why don't you go pre-order the book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back with a program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. It's Jill on Money. You guys send such great questions. Sometimes they're really hard and I don't know the answer to them, so I have to bring on a guest, and that is what I've done for this hour. Our guest is Steve Vernon. He's the author of Retirement Game Changers, and he really has been a huge researcher, writer, and speaks about the challenging issues that face retirees today. And in this segment, we get into this interesting period in time where a lot of folks found themselves, especially after the financial crisis. You retire, but you're not yet eligible for Social Security retirement benefits. If that's a category you find yourself in, you must listen to this. But everyone else, you must listen to this, because there are so many choices that we make around these very important benefits. They have lifelong implications, and it's mind-numbingly boring. But not doing it could cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars over the course of the rest of your life. Here's more of our interview with Steve Vernon. You have any words of wisdom just around folks who are not yet eligible for Medicare, but maybe they're retired and they're going into the Affordable Care Act plan? Any tips over there that you can shed light on for folks who are in that? It's like a funny situation. It's like waiting, right? But I'm just wondering, do you have any experience with it and what you think people need to know?
Yes, that period from the time you stop your work and have your coverage at work stopped until age 65, you really have to scramble to get coverage, and there's no good solution out there. But here are some possible solutions. Yes, go into the medical insurance marketplaces and see if that would work for you. You can get COBRA coverage from your work that'll last up to 18 months after you leave. So maybe if you're left at 63 and a half, you can bridge the time until you're Medicare eligible. Some people belong to professions like real estate professions or other professions, and they might have what's called an association plan. And so you can check that out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your spouse is still working. You can get coverage through your spouse's employer. So, there are a number of ways to look into this. And, I document these resources in my book, Retirement Game Changers. It's a very important shopping exercise. Now, I'll tell you two stories. My wife and me. We retired before we were Medicare eligible. We take care of our health. We're proud of that. Each of us incurred really surprise conditions that cost $200,000 each.
Whoa.
But we shopped for coverage, and we were just out a $3,000 deductible. Even though $3,000 hurt, it's a lot less than $200,000.
I'll say.
So no matter how healthy you are, you don't want to go without any coverage.
Absolutely. We're talking to Steve Vernon, who is the author of Retirement Game Changers. It occurs to me that as you start looking at longevity, and this, since you are an actuary, you sort of know how the numbers add up. I wonder, Steve, if you can give me one of those like scary factoids just about, well, you live till 65, you're eligible for Medicare. A lot of people think, well, I'm not going to live that much longer. At 65, I'm at the end. What do the numbers really look like in terms of life expectancy once you reach the age of 65?
Okay, and that's a good question, because the average person is going to live into their mid to late 80s if they've already reached age 65. So if you read in the paper that the average life expectancy in America is in your late 70s, that's from birth. And it takes into account everybody that passes away in their middle age and so on. But if you've reached age 65, you're already in a more select group because you've survived that far. And so most people, on average, are going to live into their mid to late 80s. But let me throw a monkey wrench into this. We're seeing a lot of discrepancies in life expectancy based on income and education. So really, if you had a good job for much of your life with good benefits like retirement and health care, chances are you're in that upper group with life expectancy. If you have a college degree, you're in that upper group, and you could easily live into your 90s.
It's really something to take your breath away, and it's also why when you're talking about these decisions you make about spending and healthcare costs, I mean, obviously healthcare costs are growing so much faster than the general rate of inflation. So, frankly, you get that COLA adjustment to your Social Security, big deal, right? I mean, 2.8%. I bet your healthcare costs are going up by more than 2.8%, and they're also going to go up by more than that in the future. So you have to pay attention to this stuff.
Well, that's right, Jill, and that's why I think if you consider you could easily live to your late 80s or 90s, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for most people to retire fully in their mid-60s. It just takes a lot of money, and I came to that conclusion. I'm an actuary who studied retirement all my professional career for 40 years. I concluded that retirement in my 60s, full retirement, was not a good idea, so I'm still working.
Plus, it keeps your mind working. It keeps you engaged. There's all those other factors that are so interesting that do make a huge difference. So I'm a big fan of continuing to work. Again, unless, there is something that prevents you from working. I get that, right? That's different, a healthcare issue, for example. But, if you can work, it is better to work. All right, Steve, we're going to make you do a lightning round of a bunch of Social Security questions because you are my Social Security expert. Poor you, right?
Bring it on.
I'm going to read the questions. You're going to answer them. Steve Vernon, expert extraordinaire of Social Security. Here it is from Nancy. My sister died 6 years ago. She was unmarried with no children. Neither my mom nor I were entitled to her Social Security. What happens to it and to other people who die without dependents?
Well, yeah, and this is a sad question. Actually, that money goes to other people who live into their 80s and 90s. And so Social Security is really set up like insurance. And so the same thing, what happens if you buy auto insurance and you don't go a year without an accident? That money goes to pay for other people who did have accidents. So in some respects, it's called social insurance. And this unfortunate situation, it's just the way Social Security is set up. There will be no money going to this person or her mother, and that's the way Social Security is.
Yeah, it's a pool. It's a pool, right? Yeah, and everyone jumps in the pool, and some people get out a little bit ahead, and some people get out not so well ahead. All right, here is from JB. I recently accepted my employer's early retirement package, which was effective last June. I'm 58 years old. I do not plan on working again, or if anything, I'll find a part-time job. I plan on claiming Social Security benefits when I turn age 62. If I don't work from June 1st, 2018, or part-time until I'm 62, how will that affect the calculation for my monthly benefit once I do turn 62? So there's another part of this, but so let's do that. So he's 58, he doesn't work for a few years, and at age 62, what happens there?
Well, Social Security has a formula to calculate your benefit, and one input into that formula is an average of your earnings over 35 years. So if you have 35 years of earnings, and they cherry pick the highest 35, doesn't have to be consecutive. So as long as he has 35 years of earnings, there shouldn't be a negative impact on his calculation.
Oh, that's good.
But suppose he only has 30 years of earnings. Social Security still wants to calculate a 35-year earnings, so they plug in 0 to get to 35.
Oh.
So it's real important that this person checks to make sure he has 35 years of earnings. Otherwise, his benefit might be reduced compared to if he kept working until he had 35 years.
He wants to know if he holds off claiming benefits until he's 63, will it increase his monthly amount?
Yes, and Social Security benefits increase for every year, or actually every month that you delay starting. It's a permanent increase, and that increase is applicable for every month you delay until age 70. Anything he can do to delay benefits and increase his benefits, he'll be happy when he does that because he gets a permanent lifetime increase.
We will get back to more of your fantastic Social Security Medicare questions when we return. But while we're off doing our business, why don't you go on to JillOnMoney.com and check out some of the stuff that we've written, listen to past episodes, watch some TV segments. There, that'll get you through the break. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. Hey, something cool happened here at the Jill on Money show. We have started to get more involved with Instagram. Mark, how do they follow us on Instagram? I don't even know. Jill on Money, or is it Jill Schlesinger? Jill on Money on Instagram. Anyway, Mark has teamed up with a friend of mine at work who's fabulous, and she's like Instagram queen. And she came in and gave us Instagram boot camp recently. And Mark, did my eyes glaze over with like 6 minutes or so? I just looked. It's a lot of work. I mean, I'll do it, but I'm not going to probably record myself sitting in a green room getting ready to go on the air. Although Mark and Alex say I have to. I don't know. I'm probably not going to. Let's be honest. If there's someone famous in the house, then maybe. I'll go stalk Oprah when she's in the green room. That'd be great. I'm sure she'll love that. Anyway, let's get back to the last segment with Steve Vernon. We are answering your Medicare, Social Security questions. Here's more of our interview with Steve Vernon. This is from Charles. Charles retired at age 62, and he said at that time he started receiving his Social Security checks. At age 67, I went back to work part-time, and I have been paying into Social Security since then with no increase in my Social Security benefit. The bottom line, they told me, no increase because I'm not making enough money, but I've made at least $60,000 in the last 6 years. It seems unfair that I'm not getting any payment increases. So how would that work? Once you start receiving benefits, he can't just get the increase, obviously. So what would have been the way that he could beef up his Social Security? Would he have had to stop receiving benefits when he went back to work?
Well, in this case, remember my answer to an earlier question, that Social Security takes a 35-year average of your earnings to calculate benefits, and they cherry-pick the best 35 years. So in this guy's case, maybe he's been working a little while lately, but it might not have been one of those highest 35 years. That's why he's not getting an increase due to increased benefits. He will get the COLA increases, the cost of living, but he's not going to get that because he's probably not making enough to replace one of his prior earning years.
Let me do a follow-up question to that. If I retire at age 62, maybe because I need the money, right? But then at age 63, I get a job. Can I stop my Social Security clock there, repay what I've gotten in benefits, and start adding to that 35-year average again?
Well, you're talking about a do-over, and it used to be that you could do what you're suggesting, Jill, where you pay back the benefits you received, and it's almost like do-over, like nothing happened. Social Security did change the rules 3 years ago, and now you can do that do-over only within 12 months of starting your benefits in the first place. So if you're 62 and before 11 months have passed, you stop benefits and pay them back, you can do the do-over. But once 12 months have passed, you're not eligible to do that.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's a bummer. We're talking to Steve Vernon, who is the author of Retirement Game Changers. He's also a blogger at CBS MoneyWatch, which is where I know him from. And he has been kind enough to answer a bunch of your Social Security questions. Here's another one from Richard, who is 84. 84, his current spouse is, you ready for this? 69. His first spouse died back in 1990. His second spouse, or his current spouse, is receiving Social Security benefits based on her previous employment, which is less than one half of what I receive. She was divorced about 12 years ago, and now we've been married for 6 years. Assuming I predecease her, will she then be eligible to receive my benefits?
And Jill, here's another case where I think yes. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
But also, she might actually be able to get that spousal benefit now, not waiting for him to die.
That's what I was wondering, right? She should definitely call. That's a case where you got to call for sure, because I think she might be leaving some money on the table potentially.
I thought so too. So here's the answer to her: call Social Security. Be prepared to wait, but it's part of your job. You'll be paying yourself hundreds of dollars per hour while you're waiting on the phone doing your laundry or exercising.
All right. Here is from Kathy. Kathy writes, my husband started collecting Social Security at his full retirement age, 66. He receives about $1,000 a month. When I retire at my full retirement age of 66 and a half in 5 years, my projected Social Security amount will be about $2,800 a month. I was a higher wage earner for 35 plus years. When I apply for my Social Security at full retirement age, can my husband apply for spousal benefits and receive one half of mine, which would be $400 a month more than 100% of his? Is that possible, Steve?
I think so. Once again, I think that's the case, but definitely when this person turns 66, have your husband apply for spousal benefits.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
That's the best way to find out.
Paul writes, I retired from the federal government in 2015, and I have been receiving a federal pension. I also receive a Social Security benefit since I have over 40 quarters of income separate from my federal income wages. However, since I am receiving a federal pension, I am taking a penalty in my Social Security benefit. And, he writes, that seems unfair. I did my 40 plus quarters of wages. Can you shed some light as to why I'm being penalized in my Social Security benefit? What words of wisdom can we say for Paul?
Well, for Paul, we can say we've got to distinguish between fairness and the rules. So,
that's good.
Social Security is designed for people who don't have a federal pension. Many federal workers for a long time did not participate in Social Security. If you did pay into Social Security for 40 quarters, they have a very complex formula for adjusting benefits. And this is a question where I can't explain the formula. It's beyond complexity. But this is the Social Security's effort to try and balance fairness, because the government already paid for his pension as a federal worker, and they're trying to prevent double dipping.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't seem fair, but those are the rules.
Thank you so much to Steve Vernon for joining us. We will have a link to his blog at cbsmoneywatch.com. And if you want, you can check out his book, Retirement Game Changers. Very interesting stuff. When we return, we are going to answer your questions. Remember, if you have one, just shoot us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. It's so easy to get in touch with us. All you have to do is send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That is what this person did, whose name I'm not going to use because it's actually a somewhat distinctive name. So here's the question. My husband is 76. He's in great health. He has an adjustable life insurance policy with a present cash value of $17,000. The contract will mature with no value at his age, 83, so in 7 years. If we pay $4,500 a year, we can keep the death benefit of $92,000. Is it worth it, or should we take the cash and drop the insurance? The $92,000 death benefit would help pay taxes when he dies. What taxes are we talking about? That's what I want to know. I am not 100% sure because the estate tax right now is only levied if you have a net worth, the two of you together, here in 2018, of $22,400,000. Is that the tax you're talking about? I bet not. Is the tax that you're talking about like just ongoing property taxes? Maybe. Maybe that's the case. Generally speaking, what I would say is this. It's hard for me to imagine that you really need to keep paying $4,500 a year for 7 more years because of a tax that's coming due. But if I'm missing something, you'll send me a follow-up note. Mark will let you know how to do that. But I'm going to say that right now, my guess is that cashing out is probably going to be the best thing because why pay $4,500 a month? I bet you don't need it. Here's an interesting note. I want to point this out as we come into the holiday season. Over the summer, I had written an article about how to take vacation time and really disconnect. And I got a really neat email from a guy named Milt, who said he's been in business his whole life. He's 76. He's in good health. He loves what he does. And he says, when I go into a sales appointment, my phone stays in the van. I am focused. When I return he installs window treatments, I guess. He says, when I return to install, my phone stays in the van. I am focused. I've seen designers, decorators selling in the home. In the middle of a presentation, they answer their phones. This is why we have voicemail. Over the summer, I took a 6-day vacation. I shut off my phone. I had it with me for emergencies, but at night I could peruse, maybe return a call or two if it was important. I was focused on friends, fun, food. When I came back, yes, it's a catch-up, but I'm already planning my next vacation. Planning's half the fun, and having your next vacation, even if it's just a weekend off locally, is something to look forward to. It's a renewed purpose for your work. Have a great vacation. That's so good to remember. And it is going to be holiday season. It's just really hard to disconnect. And Joan writes that they have one child. She's going to graduate high school in 2021. The FAFSA base year is 2019. My husband doesn't work. He's convinced I should quit my longtime part-time temporary job and get our income under $50,000 to meet the simplified needs test. We have a condo that we live in. It's worth $200,000, no mortgage, a beach house we use in the summer. FAFSA will not look at the beach house as an asset. The only other assets we have are in retirement accounts. My daughter has a 529 with $130,000 in it. My issue is that I'm giving up approximately $50,000 this is insane. First of all, spend the money that's in your daughter's account. Don't quit. This is a silly idea. This is just asking for trouble. You've got the money, use the money, pay for college. Okay? Don't do this. Makes no sense to me. Tell your husband he's wrong. Don't do this. 529, you've put the money aside. Use the money. No reason not to. Jennifer it works at a nonprofit. She maxes out her 403B at $18,500 a year. She also maxes out her Roth IRA. How great is that? She's got her own business. She asks her accountant, should I open a SEP IRA since it was a good option? He said a simple IRA would be better. I don't know why it's better. I mean, a simple would be easier. Simple IRA, you can put in $12,500 and an extra $3,000 if you're over the age of 50. You didn't mention that or not. The SEP, it might be that because of the amount of money you make, that using a SEP is a little bit of overkill. So, and also I don't know if you have other people working or not with you, but I don't know if there's a downside of opening the SEP. Just remember the SEP limit for this year, it's 25% of up to $275,000 of compensation, limited to an annual contribution of $55,000. And that applies to KIOs and profit sharings. No catch-up contributions. I don't know. Maybe it's just that it's easier to do a simple. Ask him. I mean, I would do whatever is easier and go with that as my kind of the basic to guide me. I think that you saving a lot of money, though. It's kind of great. All right. You are listening to Jill on Money. We love saving money. We love spending money. I like both. When we return, we're going to take more of your questions. Do me a favor. Shoot us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And go onto the website, JillOnMoney.com, and you can pre-order my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. I told you I was going to hawk this book like crazy after hawking everyone else's book. Well, sorry, it's happening. Anyway, it's a good book, and it's fun. All right, we'll be right back. You are back with Jill on Money, and before we finish out the show, there is time to squeeze in just one last email. Remember, if you have a financial question, maybe you can't remember this email address. Perhaps it's just too hard. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Maybe that's too hard to remember. But you know the name of the show. It's called Jill on Money. So if you go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, there's a Contact Us button on the upper right corner. So all you really need to remember from this conversation right this minute is Jill on Money, JillOnMoney.com, and then ask us a question. That's what Brendan did, who is 22 years old, about to graduate college. How great is that? With that comes student loan debt. Not for everyone, by the way. But poor Brendan has 80 grand, most of it from private loans. Mark is having like a slight bout of agita whenever I say these numbers. I also have very few assets, but I do have great credit. That mountain of debt just seems insurmountable. What steps should I be taking or preparing to take in order to have the best financial future? Well, I think number one, Brendan, is get a really good job and a high-paying one. That wouldn't hurt. Now, next. I need you to create a good old spreadsheet to manage this, or a list. I don't even care how you do it. You know, draw it on the cave with a bit of charcoal. You're going to list every loan. You're going to list its payment amount from the day you graduate. You are going to then actually put down the interest rate. Then you're going to rearrange your cells, and you're going to make it in declining highest interest to lowest interest. Then when you graduate, you're going to have a cash flow. You're going to keep track of every dime you spend. Just do that for 3 months and squeeze out some of the money, because you are going to be making money, and you are going to apply every extra penny to the highest interest debt first and work your way down. Now, one caveat, if you have a retirement plan at work and there is a matching component, then put some money in there just to capture the match and proceed thusly. Thank you for writing, Brendan. All right, that's it. That's the program. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget, any time of day or night, you can find us. Go to JillOnMoney.com, the Contact Us button, top right corner. We'll be there for you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.